But now we're at a time where he's got kids and he's like, oh, they're choosing this as their work, as their job, as their career. At some point, it does have to become a business, right? You want your children to live their best life. And in order to do that, one of those things is to convert it from just loving to teach to making it a systemized business that works and that can grow.
Hey, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission is to share business ideas, practices, and strategies while we enjoy our cup of coffee. Today's guest is Master Amy Kim from USK Martial Arts, and she's going to be talking a lot about the process around the education component, or the fundamentals behind what they do as an organization and how they're impacting families and lives on a regular basis. She comes with a long list of accreditation as well as her entire family, and we'll talk about that in just a little while and some of their story of how they came to bring this unique offering and this unique environment to Charlotte, North Carolina. We're going to be talking a lot about that in just a few moments. But before we do want to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. We do a brand new episode every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., and we want you to not miss a single one of them. So in order to do that, you've got to subscribe. You can do that on YouTube or Facebook. You can just search for Loc-Doc Security and you'll find it there. Or if you're listening on a podcast platform, just the audio version of this, then you can check that out as well. So we have this in audio and video form. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening on a regular basis. And thank you for joining us today. So grab a cup of coffee and get ready for this conversation.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. Time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
Welcome, Amy. Master Amy. I guess I should refer to you
Yes.
that way. All right, Master Amy Kim, thank you for being here today. We're going to talk about a lot of intriguing things. We've just been chatting here for a while, and so I know the conversation is going to be very exciting. But before we do that, it's rapid fire, 5 randomly selected questions just to get under your skin with unknown point values. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. These are all random, by the way.
Okay.
I have zero understanding or knowledge of what I'm getting ready to ask you. But this first question, if you had to pick one single word to describe this year so far, 2022 so far, what would it be?
This year, oh my gosh, that's tough. One word, I would say perseverance.
Perseverance.
Yeah.
Why so?
I would say perseverance because the aftermath of COVID, I think this year was the first year that we kind of came out of it and were able to show growth and change the way that we do things in order to persevere and to make it through the end of the year. And we're sitting at holiday season now. So I think I would say perseverance in a lot of ways. Yeah.
All right. Question number 2, do you believe that money can make you happy?
I don't think money can make you happy long term. I think it's a short term fix. I think money can make you happy for a little while, but we're human. And I think we crave connection. We crave wanting to belong. And I think that money can only get so far. So I would say, yeah, money can make you happy for a little while, but probably not a long time. Gotcha.
Question number 3, what is a restaurant that you refuse to eat at and why?
A restaurant that I refuse to eat at? Oh my God. Like a chain? I don't want to.
There's not a whole lot of parameters around these questions.
Actually, I probably, it would maybe depend on like what I'm going to go eat, but we actually recently saw a commercial of IHOP.
Okay. Yeah.
Their commercial, like you think IHOP and pancakes and breakfast, right? But the commercial, I literally saw it last night. It was salmon.
Oh, yeah.
And I probably wouldn't go there for that.
No, I would wholeheartedly agree that would be a bad choice.
Yeah. I mean, I think that salmon probably isn't my go-to if I was going to IHOP, but.
I recently ate at an oyster house.
Okay.
And the meal that was provided was mashed potatoes, green beans, and fried chicken.
Really?
So similarly,
at an oyster house.
Yeah, similarly, would not go to IHOP for salmon. Typically, you would not go to an oyster house for.
I also
fried
have
chicken.
this weird thing with seafood. If it's like more than 3 hours from a beach or like some sort of water source, I don't really feel pulled to go.
Even if it's not actually coming from that water source?
I don't know. I want to believe that it's coming from that source, but I kind of have this weird thing with seafood.
Yeah, fresh caught. It was.
You know what?
Come from that water.
There is somewhere I will never go.
All right, here we go.
It's Burger King.
All right.
I got food poisoning there when I was 9 years old. I was at a competition for martial arts, and it was this French toast stick or something, and I was scarfing it down before the competition in the morning, and I got sick. I couldn't compete, but we went with a whole group of my peers, so I couldn't even leave and go home. I was like curled up in fetal position in my mom's Suburban for 9 hours in the heat. Like I was puking. I was sad. I missed the tournament. I worked so hard for it. You know, I was like, I can't do Burger King. And so even now, like, I mean, that was when I was 9 years old. Yeah. So now I'm still like, I'll see a Burger King sign and like, no. Nope. Absolutely not.
I remember years ago, and we could probably go on and on about restaurants, but I remember years ago, this was actually when my wife and I were dating, we pulled up to a quick service restaurant and there was a mouse sitting on top of the speaker to take the order. And we were like, yeah, I mean, it's outside, but also this is just not probably a good sign. We're just going to not go there anymore.
God, no, I don't know what I would have done.
All right. Question number 4. I think this is 4. Question number 4. What is an interesting fact that you recently learned?
A recent fact that I learned? I did not know. One of my students told me yesterday, Uranus has rings, but they're invisible for the human eye.
Interesting.
You'd have to fact check that. I got that from a 9-year-old. Yeah. But he was learning about space.
He seemed very confident.
He was very confident, and he waited 45 minutes for after class to end to tell me. Oh. So I would like to believe that he paid attention enough to remember it.
Okay. Question number 5, last one. Is there a place that you have zero desire to visit? And if so, why?
Zero desire to visit. Mm-hmm. I love traveling. Mm-hmm. I love going to places and seeing, you know, what their culture and stuff have to offer, but I don't know. Maybe like North and South Dakota. I just feel like there's probably nothing there.
Yeah. No, so, not a lot of people.
Yeah, I think that whole like strip in the middle of the states, I really don't care for. Like Kansas, Oklahoma, like sorry guys. I don't know. I've actually never been to those states.
Strip in the middle of the states.
Just that whole
skip over that.
Yeah, I've actually been all the way over to like Alabama and like Tennessee, like this way. And I've been to like Vegas and Seattle and California, and like I've been to those big states, but that strip down the middle,
there's not a lot for the middle of the country.
No,
to offer
not
for
really.
You.
Yeah, I don't think so. No interest there.
I have watched some videos recently with people that have taken tours up to, I guess, Antarctica and like the really cold.
Okay.
That just does not seem appealing to me.
I would do that over going to those states down the middle.
Seemed really cold. It didn't seem appealing. All right, cool. Congratulations. You made it through rapid fire. We'll give you a score of 713.
713. Okay, so why did I not get 800?
I don't know. You should have tried harder.
That is gonna bother me all day.
We'll try harder next time. Okay.
Next time.
So let's jump into the conversation. One of the reasons that I wanted to bring you on the podcast was my son. He actually will turn 6 tomorrow whenever this airs, but when we're recording this, he'll turn 6 in 2 days, and he has been part of your Tiny Tiger program. I should probably know that better. But anyways, and we attended a belt ceremony a couple of months ago, and where they were a lot of kids in this Tiny Tiger program were going through this process. And I witnessed something that was very, very interesting, and it caught my attention so much as my wife and I were chatting. But I said I would like to understand more about this as a whole. But all of the kids had to go through different processes techniques
different
that they had to
techniques,
perform,
right.
And one of them was to break a board they had to hit a board with their hand and
Right.
break it. And one of the kids could not break the board with his hand. And as the whole class was kind of going through, and it ended with this one kid, I don't know, he might have been 5 years old, something like that. And he was the only one that had not been able to break the board. And the whole room, there had to have been 40, 50 people in here.
There were a lot of people, yeah.
The whole room just kind of got dead quiet. And everybody's sitting, staring at this little 5-year-old that's trying his hardest to break a board. And that part of it was just like kind of eerie to begin with.
It changed the tone real quick, right?
I was like, okay, what's going to happen here?
It's why we have everybody break the boards like simultaneously so that we can keep the motion going.
Yeah.
But I totally just hit the mic.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, when sometimes that happens, right? Like everybody does a great job, and then this one kid, he's actually been struggling for the last like 2-3 minutes, but now everybody's done.
Yep, everybody's done.
And now it's just this one kid, and the tone, it happens every time. Anytime that happens, the whole room, it just kind of gets heavy and quiet.
Yep.
And it's not like that, yeah, you got it. Like, it's not that like clap and, celebratory tone anymore. And we don't make it that way, but it just changes. It pivots.
Well, everybody kind of just stood there or was in kind of the shock of, okay, what is going to happen? I guess I'm from a narrative standpoint, my mind was going, what's going to happen next? How is this going to be resolved?
Right.
This kid starts, tears coming down his eyes. If there's 50 people staring at him, he's 5 years old and he can't break this board. And I'm like, okay, how is this going to resolve? And the intriguing part about this, the thing that really stood out to me was you addressed the issue, all right? And this is one of the things, like when you look at in life in general and in business in general, people a lot of times when hard things happen, people just want to sneak out of the room, walk away, disappear, not address the difficult thing. And you were right there in front of them and you said, hey, we're going to do this together. And you didn't lower your voice. You talked to him as he was a human being and in natural state and said, we're going to get through this. And you encouraged him through the process and navigated it while everybody was observing. And to me, that just showed like a high level of, I guess, leadership, a high level of discipline that said, this is something that people need to understand and people need to learn, because it would have been so easy to just say, okay, well, we'll try it later and walk away from it and just keep on trucking because everybody else was there. But the fact that you stopped, addressed, worked through it, and got the end result was a commitment to the process that I think is something that is abnormal in life right now. That was a long story and a statement to ask the question, why was that important?
Why was that important to me or to that kid?
Yeah.
I think, it's kind of a layered question. When we do belt graduations, obviously we have this belief that as instructors, we know what we're teaching. And we've taken the time over this quarter to get to know this particular student.
Sure.
And we've worked with them at least 2-3 times a week and helped to hone in on those skills and improve those skills enough to place him in front of his loved ones and demonstrate and earn his next belt. However, sometimes outside of what we practice, as in life, we hit bumps. And this is one of those situations. And it's as much of a bump for him as it is for me too. And we have to kind of think of in the moment, okay, what do I do? And earlier on, I think now it's happened a number of times that I've learned skills on how to kind of move through these scenarios the best that we can. Not that it works all the time, but we do the best that we can given the circumstances. And I think this particular moment, this boy was all about it too, right? Like I don't know if you got to see him before that, but he really did so well that whole morning, and he toughed it all out, and he was screaming loud and showing good spirit, and he was really into it. And then it was that board breaking. He was all about it. And then the first time he hit it, it was not hard enough. And then the second time he tried again, the third time he tried again, and it started to hurt. It's like a 1/2 inch thick, board, piece of wood. So now the mental thing is kicking in for him. Again, 5 years old, and he's getting all into his head. I can't do this. And I could see his eyes change. I could see his eyes water. And he's starting to realize it's getting quiet. I think everybody's looking at me. I'm getting embarrassed. Do I even want this belt anymore? I thought I liked this, but
can I just go
should
home?
can I just go home? I'm good with my white belt. I got all these stripes. I'm good. He's starting to realize, like, okay, I either do this or I cry, or what do I do? Everybody's staring at me.
Yeah.
And even though he's 5, he's processing all these feelings. And I think that's something that for us as adults have a hard time kind of making that connection. We were all once 5, but now not being 5, when we see a 5-year-old, we don't really know what they're going through.
Yeah.
We don't seem to remember when we were 5. Oh yeah, I was like that too.
Sure.
In the moment, at least, we're not like that, right? When we see that 5-year-old, we expect much more out of him, and we forget he's only 5. He doesn't even have enough words in his vocabulary yet to describe what he's going through right now.
Yeah.
So they cry.
Yep.
Just like a baby. They don't know how to talk. They cry. Either they're hungry, they need a diaper change, they're sleepy, they're hurting, something is wrong.
Sure.
It's the same thing for our 5-year-olds, is how we see it, is there's still so much developing in every outlet of their life that when something like that is placed in front of them, and they do feel pressure, they do feel their environment around them change, and they start to get tense. And he was starting to feel kind of out of his element, and he wanted out of it as quick as he could, but didn't know how.
Yeah.
So he started crying. So when I went up to him, I think I remember saying to him, like, you can choose. We don't have to do this, but if you choose to do this, we can do it together. And at the end of the day, is for me, I wanted him to be the one that decided what happens next. If you feel like someone else is choosing for you, you feel like you're forced into something, whether or not you're ready isn't the main thought process there, right? You're stripping that away, and you're saying, I'm making you do this. And long term, maybe short term, he'll break it. He might break it out of fear. We don't know, right? But long term, he might want to quit because it wasn't up to him. So that was the first step. It was addressing that, hey, nobody's going to make you do it if you don't want to do it. You need to think about whether you want to do this or whether you want to stop. Either way, it's okay. We'll figure it out. But he kind of looked at me. He wanted to try again. Now he's getting kind of anxious. So then he went. I showed him how to do it. And I pointed out like what part to use, and we ran over it. He hit my hand pretty hard when I was letting him try. And then it came to the board again, and instead of hitting with that hand, I think he just got anxious, and he actually used the other hand, if you remember. And he actually smacked the board that time. And now both his hands hurt, poor thing. And I think I remember I grabbed his hand, and I think we broke the board together eventually. And once he was done, he looked at his hand. He was like, oh man, that hurt. But he realized the board is broke, and now everybody in that whole room is cheering for him like he just got the gold medal, and he was representing his country, and he was just feeling like on cloud 9, and he was so proud to get that belt. And we were really proud that he persevered through that hard time in order to be able to break through this threshold. And I feel like that in itself was probably the biggest lesson that he could have taken away from that day of the test.
Well, in all honesty, though, it was a big lesson for anybody that was in the room, if they were paying attention, could have taken away from it, because it's in that one sense. And I'm trying not to make a bigger deal about it than it is, but it was very impactful. I know it was impactful for us and our family and for our son as well, but it's that perseverance. And I think, you said it very well. It's your choice. If you choose to do this, we'll do it together. And that is a life lesson, I think, that is applicable not just to 5-year-olds in a belt ceremony. That's applicable across the board. Is life is hard at times, and things don't always go as planned.
Right.
And oftentimes there's a lot of people staring at you because you're
Absolutely.
struggling. And having somebody to come up beside you and say, hey, it's your choice. If you want to do this, then we'll do it together and we'll get through it. If you choose not, then that's okay as well. But here's where the kind of the decision has to happen. So when it comes down to that from a day in, day out perspective, because you have a school where you're teaching kids and you're teaching adults and you're trying to develop this level of discipline. What are some of those challenges that you have seen, not just in kids, but all the way through the spectrum of the students that you have come through your doors?
I think the thing that's hard when a student of, regardless of whatever age, comes into our school and they start training, I think at first everybody thinks it's about being physically fit. Sometimes we actually have people, they want to try it, especially adults. You wouldn't believe the things that we hear. But one of the things that we hear is, oh, I got to get in shape before I do martial arts.
Sure.
And for us, we think that's so silly because this is going to help you to get that. You don't have to be fit before you come here. This is where you learn to do that. When you learn to do that, that whole process of becoming more fit in whatever way that individual feels like more fit looks like to them, they are going through these experiences that are helping them to get there. And the bigger picture with martial arts is the philosophy. And it's the life lessons that we are able to gain and take away from each class that we come to. Whether it's learning how to do a punch, learning how to defend themselves against somebody that's coming to harm them, whether it's getting better grades at school for kids, having a healthier relationship at home with their loved one or their kids. Martial arts is, in a weird way, it taps into all of these different aspects in life because the structure that martial arts provides, it's coming in and there's an expectation that you follow these certain code of ethics. There's a line of expectation where you have to follow someone's lead. That instructor has the ability to pull your energy and to come and kind of get deeper into you and kind of become a ghost inside of you and move your body and helps you to recognize and kind of reawaken. You've always had things like this in you, but the martial arts teachings and the philosophy helps to awaken those pieces and helps you realize, oh, I am strong. I am capable. And those are things that in more nowadays in today's society, I think that we really need is a place where we can go, feel like we can grow without judgment, a place where we can go and feel like these people are really cheering me on, not just to get my next belt, but they're celebrating life with me and all these achievements. And, you know, we have students that have surgery. They have to take a break for 4, 5, 6 months. And instead of quitting, you know, we're calling them, we're checking on them. They're coming to the school 6 months later. They're still back in again in uniform. They might have to redo some things in the process, but teaching people not to quit, I think is so hard. But that lesson is what we think people can really take away into other places in their life. You know, when things get hard nowadays, we just want out. You know, things get hard and we just want to either give it to somebody else to do, or we want to run away, or we want to put it under the rug as deep as we can and maybe not have to visit that ever again. Doing hard things is a part of life. And in martial arts, doing hard things could be the sparring. It's like the fighting piece of it, right?
Sure.
Doing hard things could be the board breaking. It could be speaking up when you're a black belt and you have to do your black belt speech and you have to talk about your experience for the last 4 or 5 years that you've had in front of people. I think addressing those fears that we have is really important. I think that's a skill that we can learn to improve. And I think that when people come to our school, those are some of those things that they gain if they stay long enough, right?
Sure.
If they don't quit. But even for us, sometimes things will get hard, and the kid will get a bruise here or there, and they want to quit. It is a contact martial arts. It's a contact activity. It's kind of odd that the injuries that you get related to martial arts is not as common as injuries that you get with like football, soccer, and things like that. But the media has portrayed martial arts as fighting, and so it just comes off really aggressive.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help when we're trying to fight the battle of persevere and endure and grow and push through, and you can do it. And that's all really great words, but it's really hard when you've got a kick coming to the side of your face. It's very hard when you go home after class and you've got bruises or cuts, or you broke the board after like 4 or 5 tries, or you've got a welt like on your wrist. All of those things are hurdles that we have to overcome. And if we relate that to real life, you don't just quit at life. You adapt. You find different ways to be able to achieve that goal that you had. You don't just put it away, right? And if it means something to you, you will find a way to make it work. And that's the same for us too. Our students that are at our school, regardless of age, they're coming to us in different phases of their life. And they're coming in different situations and conditions. And if we just said, hey, you're not the ideal fit of a student, you got to go somewhere else, we're not really servicing them, right?
Sure.
We're not teaching them how they can be better, because we're already saying you're not good enough or you're not the right fit. And so that's something I think as martial arts provides is different too. You can come in any shape and size, but martial arts is something that everybody can do.
Yeah.
Managing your facility, properties, and projects is hard enough. Trying to find an emailed quote in your overflowing inbox is just one more annoyance, especially if there are multiple versions. We're working hard to make your life easier by providing all the information you need in one place. Now you can request service at a date and time that works for you. And we're making it easier to see quotes and materials needed for specific openings, including photos, so that you can approve everything from the convenience of your phone or computer. Log in to start using it now. Visit customer.locdoc.net.
I want to jump back real quick because I know we jumped into this pretty heavy at the start, and just kind of give a quick introduction, and maybe not so quick, but an introduction to the school and to your dad, because this is a family business that was started and is carried on. So give us a quick snapshot of that. You were sharing some of this story before we started recording, about how your dad was an immigrant, and so we just talked about persevering and not quitting when things get hard.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about the story about how this whole thing came to be.
Yeah, so my dad started martial arts when he was 4 years old in a small town in South Korea. To be honest, he was raised by a single mom and didn't have a fatherly figure. He also doesn't have siblings. I think his mother thought at the time, 1, let's keep you out of trouble, and 2, you need somebody to help guide you. That's not me. And so she took him to this small town. I don't know how she found it, but he started taking martial arts there. And I think from what my father has shared with me many times, he loved it since day one. He felt like something was connected. He felt like the people there were gonna be there for him. He felt like he had a support system. His instructor really pushed him. And I think he needed somebody that was not his mom, that was kind of in his corner. And so that's how he started. And then just all his life, it was always focused around his martial arts training and his growth through martial arts. He immigrated to the States in '88. It was for a championship, like a tournament. My father got Korea world champion, I think in '89. In 1990, the year that I was born, he actually got world champion. He was doing all these competitions at the time. He was in his prime, in his like early mid-20s. So he was probably flying around, He said that back then his waist was 27. So he was really thin and lean and muscular and fast. My father's not very tall, but he knew that he could still use his height to his advantage. So he took his martial arts training into a way that fit his frame.
Yeah.
When he came to the States in 88, he tried all sorts of jobs just to make money because he didn't have enough money to open up a school back then.
No.
And I think life was hard, you know, as an immigrant, not knowing any English. He said that he came to the States with $100 in his pocket.
Yeah.
Didn't really know anybody, couldn't speak the language, didn't know the culture, didn't know what to do, where to go. He just knew that he needed to make money. He wanted to still do martial arts, but very restricted to things that he could do. Life was hard. He was young. He was in love with my mom. Came back to our homeland and told my mom, "Honey, this is too hard. I don't want to leave. I don't want to go back."
Yeah.
And then they created me. And my mom said, "I'm pregnant. You are going to be a dad. You have got to make money. We need to prepare." She sent him back against his wishes to the States, and he opened a school there. His first school was not even 1,000 square feet. It was in the basement, in the back of a building of an Italian restaurant, which I believe in Pittsburgh is still there to this day. And he had his first school, but there was no signage. There was no money for advertising. Yeah. My father would put his uniform on and stand in the grass of the Italian restaurant by their mailbox on a street where people are going 55 miles an hour with no signal lights and just train.
Yeah.
That was his advertising method. And he said that his first student drove by, turned around, and said, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing out here?" My dad didn't know much English. Yeah, you got my attention. My dad didn't know much English. Apparently, he said, "You come here now. I teach you."
Yeah.
And something like that helped him blossom his first student. That student helped him to grow the school a bit more and bring more people in. And he had a little school, I think like 700-800 square feet, just like concrete flooring. And he had 300 students.
Wow.
Over the time.
Yeah.
During that time, my mom and I immigrated to the States in 91, and that was kind of how we started our family. My sister was born in 92 in Pittsburgh, and then we moved to Charlotte in 95. My mom said, we need to move because it's too cold.
Yeah.
She didn't like it, so we moved, and we have been in Charlotte since, but martial arts has always been it's been our family's glue. That's been how we grew up.
And your dad is a stout dude. Like
my dad, if he didn't do martial arts, I believe he would have probably been a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
He is 5'3", I believe, but he is stocky. I mean, I always joke around. I don't know if there's an actual term for it, but I just tell people my dad has muscle on muscle.
I would agree with that statement.
If he flexes his arms, he's got this huge bicep muscle, but there's like another muscle that sits on top of it. And to me, it looks like an egg. I don't know how he develops those muscles, but he is so... I have no idea. Yeah. He probably lives at the gym. People think he owns the gym that he goes to work at, which I think he probably enjoys.
Thinks that too, yeah.
I think he thinks it's funny. But my dad loves lifting weights. Outside of martial arts, it's probably the second thing that he loves. Mm-hmm. In a way, it's actually the thing that's kept him alive. My father... He trained again since he was 4. It's all he knew. And when he was in his early 40s, I think my dad had to have a hip replacement. And it was put off as long as they could.
Sure.
And it was so bad. He had to get a hip replacement. It was a total hip replacement. Mm-hmm. We were told about maybe 6 to 8 months and he'll be good. Mm-hmm. And that process took much longer.
Oh, yeah.
Technology is great now, but it wasn't as advanced, I guess, still. When he got it done. His hip replacement surgery was done, but it was the mental aspect that kind of took over him.
Sure, yeah.
There was a lot of medication he had to take for the pain. Mm-hmm. His skin wasn't good. The medication's not good, right? Yeah. So he felt like he wasn't himself. He didn't like that. He had a hard time accepting a knife had to be taken to his body to make corrections. And he was told by many doctors he wouldn't be able to do martial arts the way that he used to ever again. And for somebody that's all he knows, I think that's like literally taking soul out of his body. And I was only 14, 15 at the time, and we had 4 schools at that time, 4 locations. And to be honest, it's not, if you ask any member of my family today, it's probably not our favorite part of our family's memory. But my father went through some mental, toughness. It was really hard on him. I think that he was probably depressed and he was going through this really tough time. He also maybe felt like he couldn't provide for the family. He was always the breadwinner, right? And then seeing my mom kind of having to go and run off to one of the schools and teaching classes. Although he loved to see her in uniform, it wasn't for the right reason. And I was always very studious at school. I would go from school and I would go and open one of the locations. I would actually, all my high school life, I would go to school in the morning, and as soon as I got out, I would pick up my siblings, and then we would drive about 25 minutes to open up the location. We would have to be open by 4, and back then we actually had a studio that had 2 classrooms.
Oh wow! Which
is great if I had it now, but back then it was a lot. So instead of 4 classes, we were running 8, and so. Our first class started at 4:30. We were scarfing food down in the car, like on the way. And it was just me and my sister, dragging my brother along, and we would teach back-to-back classes until like 8:30 at night, including adults, teaching adults. A 15-year-old teaching adults of like 40s, 50s, like, all of them taking command by, what I'm instructing. And I always felt like at that time, I can't do this. I'm not qualified for this. They're not going to listen to this little. I know you can't tell sitting in this seat, but I am very little. I'm not listening to this 4'11" girl. Yeah, she's got a black belt, but so what? Is what I thought people would think. And so I was very nervous that people were going to catch on. Does she know what she's doing? Where's the real master? Right? Where's the owner? Where's the person really running this place? And I think that made me very nervous, that I dove in even deeper, and I was more serious about it and more focused. And I didn't joke around much because I didn't want people to take me lightly. When we cleaned and went home, it was like 10:30. I was taking AP and honors classes throughout high school. I would probably not go to bed until 2:30, 3 in the morning most nights doing homework. My parents would see that my room door was kind of cracked open with the light on, and I didn't know until later on, but I didn't know that they weren't sleeping either. They felt bad, and they knew that there wasn't anything they could do for me, but they just felt like if we're at least up, maybe that's support. And so they wouldn't get much sleep either. I would get up at 6 and we would do it all over again. And I don't know how we managed doing that those years, but I still was very much the obedient child. I wanted to make my parents really proud of me. And so somehow I managed to still make straight A's. And when I graduated, I went straight into college. I went to UNC Charlotte. I went because I initially thought following Korean stereotype was my way to go. I thought being a dentist or an orthodontist was the right way. And then through my parents guiding me and kind of giving me little nuggets here and there, other people running other martial arts schools around telling my parents, hey, your daughter kind of has something here. Maybe you should push her in this direction. From going to a bio major, I pivoted and I did psychology and women and gender studies. And then I did a focus on entrepreneurship. I thought that all of those things as a sophomore in college, when I'm done, I thought that would help me to help, contribute to the family business. And here I am now on a podcast with you talking about the family business. I am not an orthodontist. I am running 2 locations now with my family, and still at this age, I'm 32, still just a little girl wanting to make her dad proud.
That's an incredible story. The thing that sounds interesting, because we were talking before we started recording about all the different things that you've got going on right now, and it sounds like you got it on easy street right now compared to what it was in high school.
Oh, yeah, I know. You know what? I never thought of it that way, but I feel like maybe high school was harder. I do miss school though, as nerdy as that is. I think school was just, I think it was a weird way for me to escape my responsibilities because even as culturally, as the oldest child, you're just expected to do these things.
I have a question for you, and you may not know the answer off the top of your head, so I'm going to ask it if you can think about it, and if you don't have the answer, I want to get it from you. How many students has your family impacted since your dad started teaching?
Oh, thousands. Thousands. I wish that we had like a chalkboard or something so we could have or a counter, but it's endless. The number of families that we have worked with, even just in Charlotte, is probably thousands. I don't know. I have absolutely no how many people that we've gone through, but my father's been teaching since the 1990s, right? So this is probably a lot of people that we've come across. Sometimes me running the school now with my brother, we'll get a visitor and we will greet them like we greet everybody else. Assuming that maybe they wanted information, they want to sign up. And every now and then we'll get somebody that comes to our school and they'll say, is this MK Kim Karate? And that's what my dad's school originally used to be called.
Gotcha.
And when somebody says that, we're instantly thinking, okay, somebody in the late 1990s trained under my dad and they remember and they wanted to come and see him. And that really touches our heart because we feel like those are the reasons why we do this.
Yeah.
People remember that we made an impact on their life at some point, or my dad, whether it was directly or through something that they learned, it helped them endure something in life, and that they'll come to visit. And, we had a guy come a couple of months ago. He's in his 50s now, but he was recollecting some of his old time training with my dad and how my father helped him choose a life that was going to be healthier.
Sure.
He wasn't going down a very good path and he was alone and making choices that were not very good. My father apparently was kind of like, hey, if you don't come to class tonight, you've been missing class for a week. If you don't come to class, I'm going to beat you up.
It's a way to get people to show up.
He showed up and I think he got all the way up to red belt or something, relocated because of work. But he came back and he visited. He doesn't even live here. This gentleman lived in South America and he was traveling because of work, ended up in Charlotte, remembered my dad's school was hereabout somewhere, Googled us and came to visit. And he was looking for my dad. And it's just, it makes me really realize one day our hope is that we will also have provided the same type of impact to somebody that they feel like they need to come by and visit and say hi.
Yeah.
And it really fills our heart and it makes us feel like my dad really did a great job.
At Loc-Doc Security, we believe your camera system should provide more than just surveillance. Being able to see exactly what's going on at your place of business from your phone or computer is fantastic. But what if there were more analytics giving you the ability to improve your business operations? Track how many people visited your location, stopped by your display, and even how often they passed by your store. Be alerted if someone was loitering, vandalizing your business, or even dumping trash. It's time for you to take advantage of this technology. Contact us today for more information about our cloud-based camera systems. Loc-Doc Security, helping you protect your people and property.
It would be an interesting statistic to see because just of the stories that you've told, there's got to be tens of thousands of people that you've impacted or indirectly impacted that your family as a whole will probably never even realize because of that kind of legacy. But it turns into this business that your dad started and kind of just persevered to get going. Now it's transitioning over to the next generation with a kind of foundation that's there. So now where is this thing going to go? What is the longevity of what you can build off of this? Because you're not starting out from scratch. You've already got a foundation to begin with. Now it's there's a lot different possibilities built out of this.
There's so many possibilities now. I'm really grateful that my dad built up to as far as he did in order to provide this platform for me. Our goals now are, I want to say bigger. I don't know. I think my dad he kind of ran it as, this is my passion, and I'm lucky that I could have made a job into it and make money off of it to raise my family. At the end of the day, if you ask him, his schools and his teachings were not his job. It was because he loved it.
Yeah.
And it was just very convenient. He was able to put the two together.
Yeah.
But now we're at a time where he's got kids and he's like, oh, they're choosing this as their work, as their job, as their career. At some point, it does have to become a business, right? You want your children to live their best life. And in order to do that, one of those things is to convert it from just loving to teach to making it a systemized business that works and that can grow. So the longevity is there for many years to come. Our goals now are to have, my father and I have this joke that we want a school at every 485 exit.
All right.
Which is a lot. There's a lot of exits on 485. But my goal was, before COVID at least, was in the next 5 years, was to have 5 schools. We have 2 right now. We're getting our plans ready for the 3rd one. I think that we could still reach that goal that I have of the 5 schools. I want to say that I don't count the 2-3 years of COVID. We'll just kind of wash that. Yeah.
They just kind of disappear.
So I think we're still kind of in a good place. But we do have this huge dream of having our own building. We kind of want to make a private school where martial arts is some of that core curriculum.
All right.
I think that a lot of schools nowadays, they're so focused on academics that a lot of kids nowadays miss out on important lessons that they can learn growing up, right? Whether it starts from how do I get back up when I fail something? What do I do when things get tough? How do I apologize to a friend? How do I make a new friend? How do I go about doing more than one activity at a time, right? Time management. I think that those are some things that school isn't able to teach kids anymore because they're so focused on their GPA and their grades. And it's not just here in the States, right? I can't speak for other countries, but in South Korea, it's all about education. And there's no life. There's no childhood play. There's nothing where the kids can go and enjoy and be a kid anymore. And it seems like that phrase becomes more and more foreign the more and more the time goes by. Just be a kid.
Yeah.
And if you told a kid to be a kid, I don't know if they know what that even would mean nowadays. The kids, when we teach them, I feel like they don't have, I feel like they're lacking some grit. They don't have that toughness in them. They get a scratch and they're like, I quit. They fall and they're embarrassed. They cry. Somebody laughs at them. They're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this. I want to do something else. So we see a lot of kids coming into our school. I ask them, have your children done other activities before? And they've listed soccer. Oh yeah, volleyball, baseball, piano, dance, gymnastics. And I'm like looking at their form. I'm like, and your son's 4? Your son's 4. I'm like, that's really great. But did they learn anything?
Yeah.
We don't know, right? It's just too much.
Busyness.
Too much busyness, yeah. And so I feel like even with kids, trying to teach kids life lessons is something that martial arts can do. And that's why we want to tie martial arts training into a school type of model where they can learn those skills. And I mean, even proper just mannerisms, right? We see kids now, they even adults, to be honest, I think the adults are worse. Nobody knows how to apologize. Nobody knows how to be accountable for their actions when they do something wrong, whether it's at school, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with their husband or wife, whether it's at their job or dating. Right? It seems like in every aspect in the life, when you look now, we don't know how to say, I messed up. That's on me. I can do better. Can I have another chance? And nothing like that anymore. It's just, okay, fine, I'll just go over here, or I'm not saying sorry, or he did it first, right? We're always pointing fingers at the other. And same thing with the kids all the time. They'll push each other around and I'm like, okay, what happened? Right? Let's lay this out. Talk to me. We talk about this, we talk about that. We see what was in alignment. And then we do the apology, like, sorry. Like, how do we say sorry, guys? You got to say what you're sorry for, that you feel bad, that you would like to still be friends. Will you forgive me? Right? There's steps to apologizing, and kids just don't know how to do it. And who's going to teach them? Who will teach them? Mom and dad are working all day now too. We're living in a country where both parents have to work to supplement the kids being able to do these activities. Where do these kids learn these things then? And at what age then are they responsible for their actions, right? When adults are doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think those are those lessons that are really important.
Well, it's a cycle that continues to kind of repeat itself. And what you're working with right now is having the opportunity, I'm imagining, having the opportunity to impact those lives, start to develop a certain aspect of, in a small sense, right? And so the more that you're able to scale this business, the more that it's functionally scalable, then those are just more families that you can impact, more lives that you can impact. So what I just heard you say through a lot of that process was your dad built a lifestyle business, something that he could do, something he enjoyed, something he could provide for his family. And now you're coming in and trying to take it to a scalable business model. What have been the biggest challenges that you've had through that transition?
My dad. He would know it too.
Yeah, well.
It's my dad. We clash so much.
Yeah.
Like if I want to do something this way, it's super simple. How many ads do you look at now that are on your phone versus print?
Sure.
It's almost obsolete, right? You don't get coupon magazines anymore. And if you do, they go straight.
Trash.
I'm sorry, but mine go straight in the recycle or in the trash. I don't even look through the pages anymore. I used to look through the pages because I wanted to know what other martial arts schools were doing ads. But nowadays,
I just looked through it so I could see my own ad.
Yeah, I just want to, I want to see that our ad came out nice, but there's just no such print ads anymore. Nobody does newsletters, right? It's just not a thing. My dad came from a generation where that was the biggest way to get people to come in.
Gotcha.
So even now, he's like, we need to put out an advertisement. I'm like, we do. It's on Google.
Yeah.
They're all intertwined on the internet, right? There's such thing as cookies. My dad's like, what's that? We have the keywords, the ad words, all those things that the internet now provides. Ads on Facebook, ads on Instagram, and my dad's like, no, like we need a print, like a ad, and we still sometimes go back and forth about that.
Yeah.
That's just one of the many things that we kind of butt heads about is I'm in this generation, he's in this generation. We're trying to mold them together, but we do still have the same goal.
Yeah.
We still have the same vision and the same dream and the same end goal here. But
the
the
path
way
there.
that we get to it is just a little bit different. And he sometimes still is very firm in his ways. And if I can, I will bend. And I'll try to mold it in a way that it can appease the both of us. But sometimes we'll have 2-3 day conversations about the same thing. I win at the end, but yeah, sometimes I think that's the biggest thing is when you have somebody that knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. He's a for sure thing. Yep. But it just doesn't work in today's time as much as it did when he was raising us.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of hard for him to recognize. And he thinks that because he doesn't see it,
sure,
that the ads aren't there.
Yeah.
We also, I think technology all around, we butt heads about. We do everything on the computer. Our memberships, our attendance, our retention, all of it. Mm-hmm. He did everything by pen and paper.
Yeah.
Attendance cards, he would mark the date that they would come with pen at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And, 300, 400, 500 students, that takes a good hour of your night. So things like that. I think productivity-wise, how we can make things more efficient and not take away from the quality.
Yeah.
or the experience. Those are some things that we will kind of butt heads about. It's been a really unique growth and pivot in our relationship from father-daughter to owner and co-owner to teacher, mentor, and student. You know, we had a tournament recently, and I always get the honor to introduce him to the mic. And everybody had an awe moment when I introduced him. I said, I can't remember exactly, but I said, introducing my mentor, my teacher, you know, my father, and everybody went, oh, in the crowd. And that's really what it is. You know, he's also my role model too, as much as he's my dad. But when we're at work, I just see him do his thing and I'm like, holy cow, like he's so great at what he does. And I'm just so lucky that I have him still around and that he's so healthy and strong. And we butt heads, but you know, I feel like who else would I do this with? Yeah. Right.
So it just kind of maybe in a way of closing, because this has been something I've got my own opinion on this, but from your perspective, from your voice, there are a lot of martial arts schools out there. I'm sure there's one on every exit of 485. What would you tell people when they say, when I'm looking to make a choice or I want my kids or myself to be involved in, what do you say is a differentiator or something that you believe to be the reason that they should, that somebody would want to join your school?
I get that question a lot. And I think about that question a lot too myself as we continue to grow and go year after year. You know, what sets us apart and how are we different? I think facility-wise, I think there's a lot, right? A lot of components to that. If I'm talking facility-wise, I think our focus will be it's clean, it's professional, our staff are professionally trained. But if we're talking, hey, martial arts, I'm looking at this and this. Why? At the end of the day, not the studios, not the lesson. Why would I come to you guys? And for us, we hope that when people come to our school, they feel like they belong here. We want them to feel like they have a family in us. We want them to feel like we are genuinely interested in their life, in their growth, in their failures. We want to extend out our hand and we want to be next to them and we want to help to guide them and cheer them on, lift them up when they need some encouragement. And I feel like when people sign up at our school, they get a team, they get a family, and they get that extra connection that we seem to not have nowadays, right? We're connected to our phones and tablets all day. We think that we are connected, but we're more disconnected the more that we have technology. We don't have the warmth of somebody, right? Of a family member or somebody that's a coach that really guides us, not just in martial arts, but in life. When something doesn't go right, somebody to say, hey, you're doing a good job, keep going. Or hey, why don't you try this instead, right? And somebody that kind of says, hey, take a break, right? Pause, reevaluate, things like that. That's how I feel like I see our school, is when people come to us, they gain family, they gain a team and a tribe, right? Somebody to rally around them when life gets tough.
Yeah. I heard you say a couple of things throughout our conversation today. You believe in encouragement, you believe in discipline, and you believe in perseverance. Those are some key factors that I pulled away from our conversation today. Well, I appreciate your time here. This has been awesome.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yeah.
I hope to come back so I can get more points on that rapid fire. That's all I've been thinking about all morning.
We'll give you another try down the road. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
The best way to do that is going to be to find us on Instagram or Facebook. It's USK Martial Arts. Or you can email us at uskmartialarts@gmail.com.
Amy, thank you for joining us today. It was a real pleasure to chat with you and learn more about what you guys do, hear more about your story and information about what you're doing and impacting lives on a daily basis. For those of you who are watching or listening for the first time, please subscribe. We've got a brand new episode every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. We don't want you to miss a single one of those. In the meantime, make sure you check out USK Martial Arts, and we will see you next time right here on the Coffee Break Podcast.